My MIL tried to buy the same wedding dress as me. She said, "It's just so beautiful." I found out, then changed my dress style completely without telling her. She showed up in the exact same dress as the maid of honor. When I got engaged to Everett, I knew planning the wedding was going to be stressful. What I didn't expect was that my future mother-in-law, Beatrix, would turn it into a battle of egos. I'd dealt with her antics before, but this one takes the cake. Literally, she almost ruined the cake too, but I'll get to that later. A little backstory: Beatrix has always been challenging. She's the kind of person who wants to be the center of attention at all times. If it's your birthday, she's talking about how she felt on her birthday 30 years ago. If you get a new job, she's comparing it to when she could have been a CEO but decided family was more important. You get the picture. Everett is amazing, though. He's thoughtful, kind, and has this ability to tune her out when she's being over the top. I figured I'd be able to do the same after we got married. But as soon as we announced our engagement, Beatrix flipped a switch. She became unbearable. At first, it was little things. She wanted us to have the wedding at some vineyard she liked, even though Everett and I had already booked a historic venue in Charleston. Then she insisted on inviting her second cousin's daughter's family because, according to her, they'd be hurt if they weren't included. I managed to dodge all of that without too much drama, but then we got to the dress. I went dress shopping at this beautiful boutique downtown with my mom, my sister Ivy, and my best friend Nadine. It was such a fun day, champagne, laughter, and lots of do's and ahs as I tried on different gowns. After a few hours, I found the dress. It was perfect, an A-line gown with a sweetheart neckline, lace detailing, and just the right amount of sparkle. I felt like a princess. Everyone agreed it was the one. Feeling excited, I made the mistake of sharing a picture of it with Beatrix later that week. I wasn't planning to, I just got caught up in the moment while we were all having dinner at her house. I showed her the picture, and her reaction was a little intense. "Oh, it's just stunning," she said, practically squealing. "You're going to look like royalty in that." I thought it was a genuine compliment at first. But then she kept going. "It's such a unique dress," she said, turning to Everett. "Don't you think she'll just shine in it?" I started to feel a little uneasy because she wasn't looking at me when she said it. She was looking at the dress on my phone like it was some prize she was determined to win. A week later, I got a frantic text from Nadine. "You are not going to believe this," she wrote, along with a blurry photo she'd taken while walking past Magnolia Bridal. In the picture was Beatrix. She was standing in the boutique, holding up what looked like my dress. I called the boutique immediately to confirm. The woman who answered told me, "Oh yes, she was just here. She tried on that gown and said she absolutely had to have it for an upcoming event. She even put down a deposit." I was speechless. I explained the situation to the boutique owner, who was just as shocked as I was. "I thought it was a little odd," she admitted. "She did say it was for a wedding, but I assumed she meant she was a guest." I couldn't even process what I was hearing. My mother-in-law had not only tried on my wedding dress but had also bought it. Who does that? I confronted her the next day. I went over to her house and asked her point-blank why she bought my dress. At first, she played dumb. "What dress?" she asked, all innocent. "The one from Magnolia Bridal. The one I showed you last week. The one I already bought for my wedding." Her eyes lit up like she'd been caught red-handed. But instead of apologizing, she had the audacity to shrug. "Oh, that dress? I just couldn't resist. It's so beautiful. And it's not like we'll be wearing it at the same time." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Beatrix, that's my wedding dress. You can't wear it." She gave me this condescending smile. "Oh, don't be so dramatic. No one will even notice. It's just a dress." At that moment, I knew reasoning with her was useless. She had no intention of giving up the dress, and I wasn't about to let her steal my thunder on the most important day of my life. I went home fuming and told Everett everything. To his credit, he was just as angry as I was. "She's completely out of line," he said. "I'll talk to her." But I stopped him. This wasn't something he could fix. This was personal now. I went back to Magnolia Bridal the next day and explained the situation to the owner. She felt terrible and offered to help me find a new dress. It wasn't what I wanted, I loved that gown, but I couldn't let Beatrix ruin my day. After hours of searching, I found a dress that was even better. It was sleek, modern, and totally different from my original choice. It had a dramatic train and a neckline that made me feel like a movie star. It wasn't what I'd pictured for myself, but it was perfect in its own way. And then I had an idea. If Beatrix wanted to play dirty, I'd meet her on her level. I enlisted Nadine's help to find a matching version of my original dress. It took some hunting, but we eventually found one on clearance at a sample sale. I bought it in my maid of honor Josette's size and asked her to wear it. Josette was more than happy to help. "This is going to be amazing," she said, already laughing at the thought. We kept everything a secret. Not even Everett knew about the switch. The plan was set, and all I had to do was wait. The wedding day arrived, and everything was perfect. The sun was shining, the flowers were blooming, and I felt like a queen in my new dress. But the real highlight of the day? Seeing Beatrix walk into the venue wearing my original dress, only to realize she wasn't the only one. Josette was already mingling with guests in her identical gown, looking radiant and confident. When Beatrix saw her, her face turned white. Then red. Then white again. She pulled me aside, hissing, "What is going on? Why is she wearing my dress?" I smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, didn't I tell you? I decided to change my dress last minute. But I thought it would be fun to have my maid of honor wear something special. Isn't it lovely?" She was fuming, but there was nothing she could do. Beatrix stormed off after our little chat, her dress swishing dramatically as she went. I watched her wander aimlessly around the venue for a bit, no doubt trying to figure out how to salvage her moment. Meanwhile, the wedding went on as planned. Guests were arriving, music was playing, and I was soaking in every second of my big day. Then came the ceremony. The music started, the doors opened, and I walked down the aisle in my sleek, glamorous dress. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and I could hear the whispers, "Oh my gosh, look at her dress. She looks incredible." It was everything I'd hoped for. Beatrix, however, was seated near the front, glaring daggers at me. I didn't care. This was my moment, and no one was going to take it away from me. The real fun began at the reception. Beatrix spent the cocktail hour sulking in a corner, trying to avoid Josette, who was happily mingling with guests and chatting up a storm in the matching dress. Every now and then, someone would compliment Josette on her bold choice to wear white as the maid of honor, which only made Beatrix angrier. At one point, I overheard her muttering to someone, "It's ridiculous. Who does that?" The irony was almost too much to handle. But it got better. During the toasts, Nadine gave a speech that included a sly reference to how everyone worked so hard to make this day perfect, even when some unexpected surprises popped up. She glanced right at Beatrix when she said it, and a few people chuckled. Beatrix looked like she wanted to disappear into the floor. Then came the dance floor. Josette, ever the MVP, made it a point to stay in Beatrix's line of sight as much as possible. At one point, someone asked if they were coordinating bridesmaids, which sent Beatrix into a huff. She tried to leave early, but Everett caught her and told her she had to stay until at least the cake cutting. He was firm but polite, and she reluctantly agreed. Oh, the cake. This part was chef's kiss. Beatrix had insisted on being involved in the cake tasting months earlier. She claimed to have a refined palate and ended up pushing for a lemon raspberry flavor that I didn't even want. I let her have her way because, honestly, I didn't care that much about the cake. But when it came time to cut it, karma struck. As Everett and I were feeding each other bites of cake for the photos, Beatrix walked up to get a closer look. She must have stepped too close because the hem of her dress caught on a chair, and she tripped, right into the cake table. The entire bottom tier of the cake slid off and landed on her dress. Lemon raspberry everywhere. The room went silent for a second before Josette, bless her, burst out laughing. That set everyone else off, and soon the entire room was howling. Beatrix tried to brush the frosting off her dress, but it only made things worse. She ended up storming out of the reception, covered in cake and utterly humiliated. After the wedding, I heard through the grapevine that Beatrix had been telling anyone who would listen that the day was a disaster and that she'd been set up. But no one believed her. Everett and I told everyone exactly what happened, and people couldn't stop laughing about it. Josette even became a bit of a legend in our friend group for her part in the plan. As for Beatrix, she's been unusually quiet since the wedding. She still shows up to family events, but she keeps her distance from me, which I'm honestly fine with. She hasn't dared to pull any more stunts, and Everett has made it clear that he won't tolerate any more of her nonsense. And me? I have no regrets. My wedding day was perfect, not because everything went smoothly, but because I stood my ground and didn't let Beatrix take the spotlight. Watching her sulk in that matching dress and then trip into the cake. That was the cherry on top. Revenge really is sweet.